ACLU.
Mm-hmm.
Are they your friends?
No. As a matter of fact, we've had them come after us. For those that didn't know, again, going back to these organizations such as the ACLU, and even speaking of Article 1 of the Bill of Rights, folks, you need to understand that they are preying on the stupidity of the American people. They want to stupefy the people because they don't want them to actually understand what that Constitution, what the Bill of Rights, which are thou shalt nots to the government, because they are our rights. But interestingly enough, it's interesting how we see organizations, again, like Roger Baldwin, the founder of the ACLU, saying, hey, listen, the end of the ACLU is communism. Well, I mean, when you tell the American people that, what do you think the reaction's going to be? Whoa, I didn't know that. No, you're exactly right. That's why you have the Sons of Liberty Radio. That's what I'll say on my radio program. That's exactly what we're doing here, because what will happen is when I'm doing a high school assembly, once in a while, as a matter of fact, I've had one or two students say to me, Bradlee, aren't you crossing lines between church and state here? And interesting that you would say that, because you've got the meaning completely backwards, up on its head. As a matter of fact, if you would you do me a favor and go get one of those Bill of Rights, those little booklets in your library, bring it over here, read Article 1 of the Bill of Rights. And they'll read it, and they'll just stop right in the middle. And what they'll do is they'll use vulgarities, of course. They'll say, Bradlee, go, whatever the case. But I'll tell them, isn't it interesting that nowhere in the Constitution of the United States, nowhere in the Bill of Rights, nowhere in your Declaration of Independence, nowhere in any founding documents can you find the phrase separation of church and state. And again, what Thomas Jefferson meant was to bar the government from establishing a one religion against the people, or to rule the roost. Interestingly, the ACLU version of Article 1 Bill of Rights is this: Congress shall make no law, ... Did you hear what I said?
Yeah.
They were busted doing this. Congress shall make no law what? ... Abridging the freedom of speech. This was what was on their website. Wait a second, friends. That's not Article 1 of the Bill of Rights.
That's right.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Now, keep in mind, it was Stalin who said America is like a healthy body, and its resistance is threefold. It's patriotism, defined out as to uphold dying laws, by the way. It's morality, and it's spiritual life. He said if we can undermine these three areas, America will collapse from within. Hello.
Sure.
Again, friends, the Constitution of the former Soviet Union in the USSR, the church is separated from the state and the school from the church, Article 52. James Wilson, he rightly said, far from being rivals or enemies, religion, the Christian religion under the umbrella of the Christian faith, the Baptists, the Catholics, the Lutherans, the Faithers, so on and so forth. He said religion and law are twin sisters, friends in mutual assistance. Indeed, these two sciences run into each other. Now, counter that or contrast that with what, again, Roger Baldwin said. He said, I'm for socialism. I'm for disarmament, ultimately for the abolishing of the state itself. He said, I seek the social ownership of property, the abolition of proprietary classes, and the sole control of the producers of wealth. He said, communism is the goal. So, America, you have the law on your side, so what are you running from? They don't have the law on their side.
Right.
We've had the ACLU come after us before. We've had them after a public school because, again, I understand my rights. The ACLU did a hit piece on my ministry because they were supporting the homosexuals in Iowa, where we did 50-some schools. This was a return assembly. The homosexuals attacked my ministry. And interestingly enough, the ACLU put a hit piece out there on me. I caught it. We froze the page. I sent it over to our attorney. A letter was sent to the ACLU the very next morning. And they said that they had no idea what we were talking about, but they didn't realize that I already had it froze on the website. I had them, right? So what they'll do is when you actually go after them, they will retreat because, again, they know that the laws are not on their side, yet they're on the sides of those that have the education and know the difference.
Well, it goes right back to the quote that you have on your card. This republic was not established by cowards, and cowards will not preserve it.
Amen.
Elmer Davis.
That's right.
And that's exactly what has to happen today. A willingness to stand up with a backbone, to say the things that need to be said, to stand up against the institutions that would undermine our liberty, that would undermine the rule of law. And because the ACLU, let's be honest, they have been involved in some good causes, but at the same time, they're all about undermining the liberties of other people if it doesn't fit within their agenda.
That's right.
Right. So you're willing to talk about the liberties of homosexuals, but you're not willing to talk about the liberties of God-fearing people.
Right.
You're not willing to defend
But wait a
those
second.
ideas.
Let's correct even that, though. The homosexuals don't have a right to violate law. All the way up until 1961 in this country, They were called, and they are called, look at state statute in every state in this country, they're called crimes against nature. Why is it all the way up until 1961 in Rhode Island, if you were caught in the act of sodomy, would you end up in prison for 21 years? Why were students across the United States of America, speaking of the gay agenda, why were they taught in public schools to turn in homosexuals? Because they knew that they were a mentally ill people. I didn't say that. That was the diagnosis concerning the homosexual communities all the way up until 1973. Now they're saying, if you don't agree with us, you hate us, you're bigots. No. That's totalitarianism. Nothing new under the sun. Again, they use the shield, but what they have behind the shield is the spear.
Right. And what I was referring to is when we're mentioning those few cases that have happened throughout the country, in New Mexico, Oregon, Washington, they're willing to stand up and claim that there are certain things that they're entitled to, but what I'm suggesting is that it's not reciprocal defense, right? You will not defend God-fearing individuals because it doesn't fit within your agenda.
What?
You know, one of the things that you had talked about, I'm looking at your page, sonsofliberty.com. Are there any brave hearts left in America?
Well, you know, I got to be honest with you. It's really hard to find people that are really doing the stuff, Shane, as we say. And you were the first one, as I said during the break. You're the first guy that I know that's actually out there fighting for this generation. The first guy. And the only other guy that I know of that's doing that is Barack Hussein Obama for the wrong reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's. We've got to go after our young people. We've got to help our young people understand what's going on, what bill of goods they're being sold.
Can I say something concerning the gay agenda too, though?
Yeah.
This isn't about attacking any particular people. This is about protecting a certain demographic of young people, namely our posterity, that are under attack. And that's what people need to realize. This isn't about anybody attacking homosexuals. No, this is about the homosexuals attacking those that don't agree with them.
Right. There it is.
That's exactly what it is.
Right.
And the writing's on the wall, and I'm sorry to say, finally, America's beginning to understand what's going on and saying, enough is enough. You know what? I say this. He who spits against heaven will surely fall on his own back. In America, if you want to dare the justice of God, let this one go. It's not a good place to put ourselves.
You know what's funny about the homosexual movement? For years you heard, geez, guys, we just want to be left alone.
That's right.
We just want to be left alone. But now you find out that they don't want to leave you alone unless you agree with their agenda.
That's right.
And they will come after you in spades, talk to the photographer, the cake maker, the person in New York. I mean,
I can give you a story. You introduced me as being on MSNBC. Well, back in August of 2010, my friends, I was broadcasting live out of Washington, D.C., the Heritage Foundation. Rachel Maddow picked up my piece. I said the Muslims were calling for the execution of the homosexuals. This is when I started to get involved concerning the gay agenda. I just wanted to turn and tell the homosexuals what I knew that their hirelings from the pulpit weren't telling them, namely the Word of God. Well, what I did is they weren't interested in what the truth was. They're at war with heaven is really what it comes down to. That's what I found. And I still say that, and I still stick to that today. Now, there's two sorts of homosexuals. There's radicals, there's the effeminate homosexual, and there's the masculine homosexual. I deal with the radical homosexuals, okay? So, again, that's why I'm always in the ring with these people. Interestingly enough, there's video out there where the Muslims in America are calling for the execution of the homosexuals. So I said on the radio show, I said, guys, I just want you to understand concerning the homosexual agenda and the homosexual communities that the Muslims are calling for your execution, and the guy in the White House is entertaining your enemies. Wake up.
And then you talked about what was the name of the leader that you mentioned a little bit earlier on?
Keith Ellison.
Yeah, Keith Ellison.
Now, what's interesting about that is, you know what Rachel Maddow did from MSNBC? I had no idea who she was. She omitted 1 minute from my radio program. She tried to make it sound like I was the one calling for the execution of the homosexuals.
Wow.
They will go to any degree, even if you don't say it, they will attempt to put the words in your mouth. So I just kind of laughed it off. At the end of her first airing, August of 2010, she said Bradlee has a disclaimer on his website saying that we've never called for the execution of the homosexuals. Well, she's exactly right. I wasn't, and she knew I wasn't. She said, well, Bradlee Dean's not really calling for the execution of the homosexuals. I went online, seen nobody really paid attention to what she had to say anyways, laughed it off. Well, May of 2011, I live in Michelle Bachmann's district, District 6 in Minnesota.
Right.
And interestingly enough, she resurrects the same piece. This time she pulls down the disclaimer. Okay? She says Bradlee Dean, like Michelle Bachmann, are calling for the upping of the bloodshed. Listen to this. Are calling for the upping of the bloodshed in America's culture wars, because Christians and conservatives are not doing enough to kill the gays.
Wow.
Within a couple days, I started getting death threats. I'm a big boy. I can handle this, okay? But when you start pulling my family into it, you want to fight? You got to fight. So what I did is they took my home. They took a physical picture of it. They put it up online, the radical homosexuals. Folks, the victims took my home, put it up online. They had to make the criminal, okay? So that's what they did with the help of Rachel Maddow. And once they took a picture of my physical house, they took my physical address, put the two together, the radical homosexuals did. They put it up online.
Wow.
Within 2 weeks, I hired an attorney. I flew to New York, and we brought a lawsuit against MSNBC for $50 million. Okay? In the process of that, we've been going on for 2 years now. At the end of the day, we went from state court to federal court. Rachel Maddow and MSNBC hired 4 high-powered attorneys to defend what she just did. It's as clear as day what she did. The press does not have a right to lie because they don't have a right to. Right. It's called licentiousness, friends, if you think they do. Okay? And the other thing is they don't have a right to put a jihad out on my life, and that's exactly what they did. The court got involved with the 4 high-powered attorneys and said, Bradlee, we'll tell you what. You know, because we're going to be really nice and we're going to be good to you guys, you know, you young punks over there. And I know that they just put a jihad out on your life and there's death threats on your life, your wives, and your 5 little boys. But I just want to let you know that, you know what, why don't you go ahead and pay $24,000 to MSNBC's attorneys and we'll let you go over to federal court. I said that is like asking David to meet with an attorney, pay off an attorney before he takes off the head of Goliath.
Right.
I'm not asking. I'm not asking for permission from criminals to obey God. The courts know that she is guilty as hell, literally. Right. You know it, and I know it. But I want people to understand after $98,000, this is what the younger generation gets to see in their government, how perverse they really are.
Wow. Unbelievable what's going on in this country.
It
Unbelievable. You know, you have one side of that stands in opposition to liberty, and you're right, Bradlee. They don't want to have a discussion. They want to have a monologue. If you disagree with them, they will do anything that they possibly can to take you out of the game.
That's right. MSNBC wouldn't have anything to do with me. The first time she came out against me, I got on the we actually got on the phone with her and said, "Hey, we'll be out in New York tomorrow. Let me answer for myself," because you know I didn't say that. But you know what? Wow. Rush Limbaugh, interestingly enough, love him or hate him, whatever the case might be, he's got 20 million listeners. He's finally grown a spine here, too. Now he's going after the Democratic Party, which, in fact, perverted his words. And you know what? He needs to go for it.
That's right.
Because the American people need to stand up and say enough of this. And by the way, friends, the state-run media has a 21% approval rating. So, in other words, America doesn't believe what they have to say. But yet again, friends, why do we allow these organizations to continuously go on with what they're doing? MSNBC's ratings, they couldn't be any lower than a snake's belly.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. As we prepare to let you go here, I know you got lots going on today, big event on Wednesday night, that is tomorrow night. Let me ask you this, Bradlee. Do you see better days coming to America? There's obviously a big fight going on right now. And we've got to make a choice as a country as to where we're going. Do you see better days coming? Do you see hope on the horizon? Is there a reason for people to get up and say, you know what, this is worth fighting for?
Yeah. One of the Saul Alinsky tactics is, and by the way, the criminal in the White House, because a criminal he is, treason is criminal in this country. And interestingly enough, when you look at this individual in the White House, he is a Saul Alinsky disciple. Saul Alinsky actually, through Rules for Revolution, Rules for Radicals in his book, he credits Satan. He credits Satan for his book. And the man doesn't know how to tell the truth. He's a liar. He's a killer. He's a murderer. He's a thief, John 10:10. And they act just like him, so the apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. But what's interesting about it is they want you to believe that there's a lot more of them than there really is. America, this is what you need to wake up to. Barack Hussein Obama does not have the support that you think he's got. Let me prove my point. 70% of his Twitter account is contrived. It's fake. It's not real. Interestingly enough, Stevie Wonder came about and wanted to do a fundraiser for his second term. Stevie Wonder couldn't get 200 people to show up. In Milwaukee, Wisconsin, the state across from Minnesota, which it is now, interestingly enough, they told the American people, the state-run media, the controlled media, by the way, they told the American people that 18,000 people during his, running for the second term filled that arena. But there were some people that did their homework, because what they did is they found out that there was only 5,000 seats in that arena. We also know that during the DNC, listen carefully, America, and I'm not asking you to trust the arm of the flesh. I'm telling you to trust the Spirit of God, not by power, not by might, but by my Spirit, saith the Lord. Let's trust in Him and see the results that He'll give us. But interestingly enough, during the DNC, he was going to have his second term re-inauguration party and campaign party in a 74,000 seat arena. He couldn't get 74,000 people to show up. He couldn't give free tickets away to get 74,000 people to show up. So they moved it to a 20,000 seat arena, which he still couldn't fill up. As a matter of fact, if you remember rightly, the whole back was empty because the people weren't showing up. Free tickets. Right. They blamed the weather. The meteorologist came back and said, hey, listen, the weather had nothing to do with it. He doesn't have the support, America. Did you also know that during his re-inaugural address, his second term, which I believe he's there by complete fraud all the way through since day one, just, again, facts are stubborn things. Check the facts. But interestingly enough, he couldn't even sell out all the hotel rooms in Washington, D.C. The hotel rooms are sold out almost on a daily basis in D.C. Right. Folks, what are you running from? Yeah. The state-run media is hoping you believe what they have to say. And that's how they rule the roost. It was Joseph Mengele that said, SS war criminal under Adolf Hitler. He said, the more we do to you, the less you believe that it's us doing it to you. He does not have the support. Let me prove one more point here. Just in Pennsylvania last week, because even his side, friends, as you play that little paradigm of the left and the right, his side is running from him in droves during these election seasons. They're running from him because they realize that wherever he gets involved, people run away. It works against them. Do you guys remember just last week they actually showed the lawful guys showed a picture of the campaign party that they were having in Pennsylvania. They had a panoramic. They took 3/4 of the stadium, put a wall back up and a curtain because they only could have a quarter of the arena. But what they did is the panoramic showed that there was nobody on the right and the left. There was only a consecrated group of people in the center. And I said, you mark my words. You mark my words. What they're going to do is they're going to take a picture of the group of people right in the center, and the state-controlled media will blow it out there like everybody's supporting him. Friends, he does not have the support. I ask, what is 300? You said 15 million people. 315 million people, Americans, knowing the price paid for your freedom.